Hello everyone, I'm Mario and I am a motion designer. In today's tutorial we're going to create together this animation I designed in Cinema 4D some weeks ago. We will cover everything from the creation of the scene from scratch to the final animation, and if you want to know how to render this same scene in Octane Render, check the link down in the description, where you can also find a link to my Gumroad profile, where you can download the original Cinema 4D project of this animation for free. So hit like and subscribe to stay updated on future contents, follow me on my Instagram, that is mariomacca.design, and let's jump into the tutorial. Okay, so first of all let's jump into Cinema 4D and let's set up our scene. To doing this, go to Edit, go to Project Settings, and let's set up 25 frames per second with a maximum time of 125 frames, so our animation will last 5 seconds. Then go to Edit Render Settings, and for this video I'm gonna use a square format. In this case I'm gonna set 1080 by 1080, 25 frames per second is okay. Let's close it and let's add in our scene a plane object. Let's make it bigger. Then select the bend tool holding Shift and increase his strength by 90 degrees. Okay, nothing is happening. Let's increase his size. Okay, maybe this is too much. Let's keep everything to 300. And let's rotate the bend tool. Okay, let's increase the number of subdivision of the plane, so we can have a smooth curve. And this is to create a cyclorama for our scene, the settings of the animation. Then let's add a cylinder in the scene. For this cylinder I'm gonna use the settings I used in my original animation, so 200 of radius and 30 centimeters of height. Then let's increase the rotation segments to have a better geometry. Let's add a little bit of fillet, maybe something in between 5 centimeters or maybe 2 is good enough for this. Okay, now let's add a camera in our scene. Let's try to replicate the isometric view without using an isometric camera because it's a mess to control. So in the focal length, let's do something like 200. Let's jump into the camera and let's position it in our scene. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna copy and paste the exact settings I used in my original animation. You can feel free to copy them or experiment with another view. It's up to you. Then select the camera, go to Tags, Cinema 4D Tags, and then click on Protection. We've just inserted a protection tag. In this way we can't move the camera by accident. So let's insert a cube, click in here, and again I'm gonna use the same exact parameters I used in the original animation. It's up to you if you want to copy that or if you want to experiment. I suggest you to experiment and do something more personal. By the way, let's insert a cube, let's move it till it touches the cylinder. Okay, now click and hold the mouse on this icon and let's insert a formula spline here. Okay, the formula spline is basically replicating a formula, and if you open the object tab, don't be scared. I know there's a lot of math going on here, but just follow me. On the X we can adjust the size of the formula, and on the Y the height, something like that. Then we can increase the number of, let's say, clones of the formula, both on the left side and on the right side. While on samples, we can specify the number of points of our spline. If they are lower, our spline will be rubbish. So for this tutorial, I'm gonna use 100. It's a good number. Then let's rotate our formula spline by 90 degrees, like this, like that. Okay. Select the cube, go on this icon and insert a volume builder holding Alt to apply it to the cube. With a volume builder, we're just using voxels instead of polygons to create geometry. It's okay, don't be scared by this strange visualization. Let's move forward. Let's insert the formula spline into the volume builder and let's add the cube for now. One crazy thing of the volume builder is that if we insert a spline or an object without geometry, the volume builder creates automatically voxels surrounding our spline in this case. So you're gonna see this snake-shaped stuff. It's okay. Then select the volume builder. In the sub-menu, click on formula and let's increase the radius of this snake. Okay, it's not a snake, but whatever. In density, we can create it's like regulating the density of the snake. Don't go too big or your computer will crash because it's very expensive in terms of resources. And let's show the cube again and let's move the snake up a little bit higher. I'm gonna call this stuff snake for the rest of the tutorial, sorry. Then on voxel size, let's go for something like 2. If you go lower than 2, you can have problems. Then in the submenu of the volume builder, go to formula and click subtract. Okay, now we have the snake is creating a hole in our cube. Maybe let's increase the radius of the snake. Let's move it up just to make the data stuff to disappear. Okay, maybe the viewport can be very slow if your CPU is not strong enough. Mine is quite rubbish. Okay, now let's animate the snake, so hide everything except the formula. Okay, we want to create a loop animation, so the first frame must be the same as the last one. Now, let's animate the formula, moving it in this direction. I did some maths and calculation and complicated stuff, and I found out that if we keyframe the first frame to 0 and the last one to minus 600 centimeters, it loops. It's perfect. Did something wrong before and we need the formula to continue on the right side and not on the left side, so let's flip the values. Okay, to have a better loop, go to Window, go to Timeline F-Curve, select the keyframe of the animation, both, and hold and click on this button. So the time of the animation will be linear, and it works way better in this kind of animation. See, the formula is looping. Yeah, I choose minus 600 centimeters for the loop because if you go to the settings of the formula object, in the X we can see 300, so it's like 300 by 2 to have a perfect loop. So that's the complicated formula I was talking about. And let's reactivate everything and press play if you want to see a preview of your animation. Since I'm recording my screen, I'm gonna set the voxel size to 5 to have a better performance. Okay, it's working. Now let's go back to our original size, that is 2. Let's move the snake just a little bit inside the cube. Don't worry about the errors you can see, we're gonna fix it right now. Let's duplicate the main cube holding Ctrl and drag and drop it. Let's call the new cube minus. And let's move the minus cube up. This is gonna be like a sort of mask to hide the part of the main cube that are not disappearing with just the formula object. And to do this, go to the volume builder submenu and the minus, let's set subtract. Okay, this is strange. And okay, it's because the minus cube is we need to increase its size on the other coordinates, so it will work as a mask. Okay, something like that. That's perfect. Now we can delete the part we don't want to show. Okay, now I'm just fixing something, and increase the radius of the snake. Yeah, I'm gonna call this stuff snake for the rest of the tutorial. And when we are satisfied, go to the volume builder submenu and click on smooth layer. And I think the standard smoothing is okay for me, so we don't need to edit it, but if you want, there are a bunch of parameters to play with. I think Gaussian is okay for this animation. Okay, this animation is very slow, as you can see. The volume builder is pretty intensive on your CPU. When you are satisfied with the animation, select the volume builder and add a volume mesher holding Alt. Okay. And if you want to speed up the viewport, go on adaptive and set something small like 0.01, so we have less polygons to work with. And always remember to add a volume mesher after you finished with the volume builder, because the volume builder just generates a preview of the voxels, but the volume mesher does the magic and show your object, the real object in the scene. Okay, maybe let's increase the size of our object and push up the formula and the minus cube just a little bit. Okay, now what if you want to see this animation in real time, or if you want to speed up your viewport? That's a trick. Go to the volume mesher, right click and select Bake as Alembic. In this way, Cinema 4D is going to create another object, a new object, that has the same geometry and the same animation of our volume mesher. This object is called Alembic. You can create alembics out of every object in Cinema 4D. For example, if you have some complex animation with a lot of polygons, a lot of calculation, a lot of stuff, your viewport is going to run is running very slow. You can right click and Bake as Alembic. The downside of this is that you can't really edit an alembic after it's created. So let's wait for Cinema 4D to do all these calculations. And that's it. We have a new object. The volume mesher, the icon is changed, it's not green anymore. Let's hide the volume builder and volume mesher and everything inside of it. And let's play the alembic. See, this is the real-time preview. It's way faster than the volume builder and volume mesher. And if you're okay with the animation, we can move on. If you are not happy, you can just delete the alembic, change the volume builder and volume mesher stuff, and Bake as Alembic again. Okay, now it's time to insert our sphere in the scene. So let's create a new sphere object. Let's decrease its size to 80 centimeters. And let's increase the segments so we have a better geometry, and let's change the type to hemisphere. Drag and drop the sphere holding Ctrl to duplicate it. Let's call one hemisphere gold and the other black. And let's rotate the black one by 180 degrees. Then select both of them, click Alt and G to create a group, and let's call this group Sphere. Okay, now let's do a double click on this tab to create some placeholder materials. Let's create one yellow material and one black materials. And again, if you want to know how to render this scene in Octane, there's a link down in the description, but for now we're just focusing on fake materials. So let's assign the black material to the black sphere, the gold one to the gold sphere, so we can see the difference between the objects. And let's position the sphere like it is touching our volume mesher alembic. Okay, I think we're good with that. And let's jump into the sphere animation. Okay, let's animate the sphere. Select the group we just created and go to Tags, Cinema 4D Tags, and Align to Spline. With this new tag we just inserted, we can make our objects to move along a spline. Let's look at this. Go to the volume bit and volume mesher and duplicate the formula spline we just inserted before. Let's rename it. Go to the align to spline tag and drag and drop the new formula in the spline path, and let's move the position. See? If we change the position, our sphere is moving through all the spline from the starting point to the ending one. Bear in mind that now we can't move the position, we can change the position of the sphere because it's connected to the spline. The only way to move the sphere up and down is moving the spline itself. Look at this. If we move the spline, we can move the whole group, but we can't move the group directly. So don't forget this. Okay, let's move the spline down just a little bit so it looks like it's touching the alembic. And set a first position for the spline. I think 30% is okay in my case. Okay, now let's go to the final frame of our timeline and let's change the position of the tag. We need to find a value in which the sphere is in the same position between the first frame and the last one. I didn't find a way to automatize this process, so it's just about going back and forth between the first frame and the last frame, changing the value and find something that works. In my case, I found out that 63.3% is a good value. The difference between the first frame and the last one is very small, so it's okay for me, it works. Let's press play to see what happens. Don't forget to set the align to spline animation to linear, like in the same way we did for the formula before. Okay, now let's hit play to see what happens, and I think the animation is pretty okay. Okay, now we've just done this, the animation is okay, we just need to insert a rotation of the sphere while it is moving along the path, the spline. So let's keyframe the first rotation, the keyframe rotation to 0, and the last one, let's go for minus 360 degrees. In this way, our sphere will do a complete rotation in every loop. Okay, now let's jump into the timeline editor. Let's go to the rotation, and this time we're not gonna set the keyframes to linear because they will be rubbish. Look at this, unrealistic and kinda boring. So select both keyframes and click on this icon to set the curve to its standard position, and just give me a second to explain something. We are now basically going to animate the curve of the rotation of the sphere manually. If you don't know how to do this, if you have no idea what this curve actually means, I'll leave for you some links in the description. Because I don't have the time to cover all this stuff in one single video inside of a tutorial, so if you know what this curve is, just go on with the video. If you don't have any idea of this, check the links in the description and come back after you've learned something about the curve. Okay, if we analyze the animation and we go forward on the timeline, we can go to the frame 40 and we can see that the sphere has reached the maximum height on this tiny little mountain we've just created. So let's put a keyframe on here. Having a third keyframe makes us to have more control on the animation. And why put this keyframe on this specific frame? Well, it's easy. Since on the frame 40, the sphere is on the maximum height of the mountain. Let's call it mountain, okay? It's on the maximum height of the mountain. It means that the rotation speed will be something like 0, and After that, the sphere will fall from the mountain, and so it will increase its velocity. So we can split the animation in two parts, the part between 0 and 40 frames, and the part from 40 to the final keyframe. Just let me show you a quick tip. Click on the rotation text inside of the timeline, and then we have a new panel in the properties. And before and in after, set the value to offset repeat with 2 levels, with 2 of repetition. If we zoom out in the timeline, we can see that we've created an exact clone of our curve after the animation and before the animation. You will see why I think this is very important to create a solid animation. See, if we move the handle of the last keyframe, we can see that the black clones before the animation will change accordingly to this handle. It's the same is for the first keyframe. Basically, we want to create a smooth transition between the first keyframe and the last one, so our animation will be better and smoother. This is just to create a graphic reference of the curve before and after the animation. So let's select the first frame and the second one. Let's make them in default, and select on the preview timeline 0 and 40. So we can focus just on this part of the animation. Okay, now what we have to do, it's easy. The sphere is climbing up the mountain, so its velocity will be decreasing until it reaches the 0 value. This is basically just manually animating the keyframes, so there's no wrong way or a right way to do this. It's just about going back and forth and try. Okay, I think for now the first part of the animation is kinda okay. It's not perfect, of course. Let's jump to the second part. So from frame 40 to the frame 125. Now we have to do the opposite. We need to increase the velocity of the sphere, but let me set the final keyframe to minus 720 degrees because I think just one complete rotation is lower than I really want. And okay, I think now it's way better than before. Now we have just to adjust the curve manually, so I will speed up the video. It just I repeat myself, going back and forth, try different values, different curves, and try to find something that it's okay for you. You can spend hours in this process. On my original animation, I think I spent 20 minutes to find the perfect balance in this curve. So it's up to you here. How much time you want to spend, how much time you can spend on this animation, but believe me that the true magic happens in this panel. And don't forget that since our animation is looping, we need to remove the last frame, because the first frame and the last one are basically the same. So in this case, I'm going to see the preview from the frame 0 to the frame 124. So we have a complete and smooth loop animation. Okay, from now on it's up to you. I will not try to replicate the same curve of my original animation, since it will require me too much time. But again, you can download the original project file for free. Check the link in the description, and you can see and study the curve, the original curve I used in my animation. But if you want to try to do something on your own, you can go. I think it's the trying and failing and trying and failing again is the best way to learn something. Okay, let's say we have completed the animation. We can do something to make our scene more interesting. Go to select the volume mesher, the alembic we created before, and insert it into a volume builder. hold in Alt. Okay, now in the volume builder, let's create a cube like the one I'm creating right now. Just put it in the middle of the alembic and make it bigger than the volume mesher. Now, on the volume mesher option, set the voxel size to 2 and in the cube, select intersect. We have just the intersection between the alembic and the curve. Add a smooth layer to make the geometry looks better. And let's call this volume gold. Let's duplicate the volume gold. And let's call this new volume volume builder, volume black. And then on the cube, let's select subtract instead of intersection. Then insert our volume builder into two volume meshers. And now let's put our materials in this new volume meshers. And see, we just made our scene looks more interesting. Of course, the viewport will be very slow, so I suggest you to create other two alembics like I showed you before, so your viewport will be way faster. And that's it for this tutorial. If you want to know how to render this scene in Octane, just go to the link up here or check the link in the description. And feel free to share with me the awesome design you created thanks to this tutorial. Just tag me on my Instagram, it's mariomacca.design. There's also the link in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you don't want to lose any update on future contents, hit like and subscribe. And feel free to write me any feedbacks or any question in the comments below. See you in the next video. Bye!